You're listening to The Pain Chaser 1, Ambuscade. This audiobook contains violence, torture, drug use, and scenes of a graphic and often disturbing sexual nature. It should go without saying that it is not intended for children. Now turn up the sound, turn down the lights, and find a comfortable place to hide. Because fear has a face, and I'm going to show it to you. Chapter 6. The teacher's lounge was quite a bit larger than the office had been, but was just as bare. There was, however, a bathroom and small kitchen niche with running water off to one side. Rob dropped his load unceremoniously on the floor in the center of the room. Okay, I'm gonna go take a look at the cafeteria for something for us all to eat. I noticed before that they'd already stocked the freezers. Anyone want to come? I'll go, Steve said, dropping his things as well. Are we gonna be stuck eating microwave pizza? Anton asked. No microwave, Rob said. No, Steve said thoughtfully, but there's probably canned food and cereal. Let's go. Rob and Steve disappeared to find the food, while the others set up makeshift beds on the floor. They passed the time, asking one another questions from one of the board games Steve had brought along. 20 minutes later, Steve and Rob had returned with the promised food, and everyone's mood had improved. Even Tabby seemed to have given up on complaining for the time being. Outside, the snow continued to fall. It left drifts that rounded the edges of the buildings and blurred the details of Kettle Creek into a stark mask of vagueness. The wind, now a banshee's wail, flitted through the streets in a tone that was oppressive and desperate. It chilled the bone the way the cold chilled the air. Or it would have if there was anyone there to aggress. As it was, the streets were as empty as they were featureless. The few citizens that still clung to the old ghost of a town stayed indoors, where thin walls and meager fires did little to support their delusions of safety. What is the Bosnian city in which an assassination triggered World War I? Annie was asking. Sarajevo, Steve answered quickly. Now how the fuck did you know that? Rob asked him. I guess I paid attention in history class, he said with a wry smile. Okay, Tabby said. What city was burned in 1812 to deprive Napoleon of a winter base? Moscow, Steve said, a definite air of smugness about him now. What the fuck? Rob asked, his mouth hanging open. Dude, I knew that one, Anton said. Bullshit. No, really, I did. Okay, Anton, here's one for you. You said you were a fan of horror movies. Clive Barker's Hellraiser is based on what 1986 novella? Anton thought for a moment, resting his head in his hand. Tales of a Hellbound Heart or something like that. Tabby turned the card over and looked at it. Close. It's just the Hellbound Heart. Good enough for government work, Steve said. Is that the one with the guy with all the pins in his head? She asked, putting the card back in the box. Yeah, Anton said. Only the first two were any good, though. Rob read off, which female figure skater won gold at the 1992 Winter Olympics? This time Annie said, Ooh, I know this one. It was Christy Yamaguchi. I remember seeing that on TV. She was amazing. Rob just nodded and put the card back. I remember wanting to be just like her when I was a kid. She was wearing this gorgeous gold and black outfit and just danced across the ice. It was so beautiful, Annie said, all too aware that now everyone was looking at her. She pulled her blanket around herself protectively. Did you skate? Tabby asked her. I did when I was a kid. Why'd you give it up? Just fell out of it, I guess. I can't imagine being up in front of all those people like that. There was this point where Christy messed up on a triple loop. Her hand touched the ice, only for a second. If it were me, I would have fallen apart completely. Nancy Kerrigan was right behind her in points. There was so much pressure. Kerrigan's the one who paid that guy to break the other girl's leg, right? Rob asked. No, Annie said. That was Tanya Harding. Nancy was the one that was attacked, and that was in 94. Annie wrapped the blanket around herself more tightly. The others looked so much more cheerful than before. Why then could she not join them? Why couldn't she just let go and have a good time too? She slipped back from them mentally, crawling backward into a shadowy corner inside herself, only semi-aware as they continued to fire questions at one another. It felt wrong, like she was behind glass, looking out at the rest of the world. But it also felt familiar. She suddenly wanted to be home very badly, Henry's fingers brushing through her hair, his presence making her feel safe, banishing these anxious feelings. Where would one visit to see the Sea of Tranquility? Steve asked. Annie knew, but just now she would rather not speak. She felt ill. A moment passed and no one else offered an answer. The moon, Steve said, turning the card over. Shit, Anton laughed. I should have known that. I remember that from science class in high school. I didn't know there was water on the moon, Tabby said. No, it's not, Anton began, but Rob cut him short. What is that? He asked. His arm was outstretched and he was pointing. All eyes were on him, following the invisible line of his finger to something on the wall. Annie came back to herself, staring in disbelief with the others. It was a note, held in place with a bright green thumbtack. Rob stood up, letting his blanket fall to the floor, and crossed the room to pull the note from the wall. His eyes scanned, and his face flashed a mixture of horror and confusion. What the fuck is this? He demanded, waving the note. Well, I sure as hell can't tell you from over there, Steve said. Rob walked over and handed the note off to Steve, who placed it on the floor so everyone could see. It was handwritten on a piece of torn-out notebook paper. It read, Justine was mine. You had no right to take her from me. I will not be backed into a corner. I will not submit. I'm going to kill you all. There was a long moment as no one said anything. Then finally, Tabby broke the silence. Is this you, Anton? She asked simply, not quite knowing what to make of the message. Is what me? He asked. Did you write this? She asked. He stared at her incredulously. I don't even know anyone named Justine. This has got to be some kind of joke, Rob suggested. Steve looked back to the place that had been tacked to the wall. Was that there when we came in? No way, Rob said. Couldn't have been. We would have seen it. We could have missed it, Annie asserted, but felt unconvinced herself. In an empty room? Your eyes would have gone right to that spot, Rob stated. One of us had to have put it there. Okay, this isn't funny, you guys, Tabby said, a tone of anger and fear creeping into her voice. Which one of you wrote it? The room exchanged glances. Anton, did you? Tabby began, but he cut her off in mid-sentence, no longer containing his irritation at her. Tabby, I didn't fucking write it, he snapped. Anton, Steve said calmly, calm down. Look at the facts here. Look at the frayed edges. The note is written on notebook paper, ripped out of a spiral notebook. None of us have a notebook like that with us, right? They all shook their heads. And what Rob said about noticing it when we came in makes sense. But at the same time, it would be equally as hard for one of us to have tacked it to the wall without anyone else noticing. So what are you saying? Asked Rob. I'm saying, Steve replied, that to me, it looks like one of the workers left it for someone else on the crew, some kind of inside joke. And how did we miss seeing it when we came in? Asked Anton. I don't know, Steve conceded, but apparently we did. How else could it have gotten there? I don't know, Anton said. Steve looked at Tabby, who still looked frightened. It's just a note, Tabby. He ripped it in half. Just someone's idea of a joke. Well, it isn't funny, Tabby said. No one was laughing. The fire was inside the walls now, like a living thing. It blackened drywall, making the paint bubble and bulge before snaking outward in long tongues of flame, consuming hungrily, filling the house with thick, black smoke. Annie was crying, terrified, calling to her mother for help, but there was nothing to be found in the cold depths of her eyes but calm indifference. She had the detached look of a woman watching something on television. Mom! She screamed at her mother, who sat cradled in her father's arms on the living room couch. Mom, why won't you listen to me? Where is Brian? Her mother asked, regarding her with a loveless stare.